Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. Today I'm going to recap last night's college football playoff national championship game. Then I'll get into college basketball, NBA, and the NHL, as well as some soccer. I'll do NFL power rankings to end the season, and the theme is resumes. Like, best win, worst loss from a resume standpoint based on how their opponents did this season. News and notes and best bet. We'll start with the Natty. It did not live up to the hype. Georgia proved to everybody that they were just clearly better than everybody else as they destroy TCU 65-7 as they repeat as national champions. Georgia finishes the year at 15-0. TCU finishes at 13-2. Stetson Bennett was the offensive player of the game, 18-25, 304 yards and 4 touchdowns. Max Duggan had his worst game at the worst possible time, 14-22, 152 yards and 2 picks. So TCU 3-and-out to start the game, and then Stetson Bennett on Georgia's first drive, 21-yard run, 7-0 Georgia. Then TCU turns the ball over. Jack Podol's knee, 24 yards, 10-0. Then TCU gets its lone score in the first quarter, 2-yard run by Max Duggan, make it 10-7. And then Georgia comes right back and scores. Laidman Conkley, 37 yards from Bennett, 17-7. Second quarter, Bennett 6-yard run, 24-7. With 1:19 left in the second quarter, Kendall Milton, 1-yard run, 31-7. And then TCU turns it over again. Adonai Mitchell, 22-yard pass from Stetson Bennett, 38-7 at half. And the beat kept going. Third quarter, Brock Bowers, 22 yards from Bennett, 45-7. Laidman Conkley, 14 yards from Bennett, 52-7. Then Branson Robinson, 1-yard run, 59-7. And then Robinson again for 19 yards. As Podolsey actually missed the extra point. 65-7 was your final. That was Georgia's best performance, best game, and the game against Oregon to start the year were its two best performances. But this was the absolute best because this TCU team was hot, and Georgia just said, not today. So congrats to Georgia, back-to-back champs. They're the favorites going into next year already, which should not be surprising. 3P is very hard to do in college sports. I know Georgia's just going to keep reloading. They're the new Alabama to me. They just keep reloading. Kirby is such a great coach, and I wonder what Nick was thinking last night. He was doing TV with ESPN, and obviously Kirby was an assistant on Nick's staff at Alabama. And I'm sure Nick's proud of Kirby, but at the same time, Nick's got to be like, yeah, he's kind of made the SEC East version of my program. So I wonder if he feels a little bit like jealousy in a way too, but I'm sure that he's happy for Kirby. And like I said, Jalen Carter's going to be in the draft, top 5 player in the draft. I would put him number 3 on my big board behind Will Anderson and Bryce Young. You could argue even number 2 ahead of Bryce Young. But he's so good, Jalen Carter. They're going to lose him. They're going to lose Bennett. But like I said, this team just keeps reloading on the fly. So I don't know if they'll be as good next season as this season. And for TCU, it just stinks that their magical season has to end in blowout fashion against the best team in the country. would you rather get blown out like this, or would you rather lose a heartbreaker and lost to Michigan in the previous round if you're TCU? Now looking back. That's a really interesting question. And I think it's always good to make the national title game. And it's a great accomplishment. But to get whacked in it like that, everyone's going to say, oh, well, the real national championship game was Georgia-Ohio State. Which, on paper in the preseason, you say, yeah, that's true. But TCU went pound for pound with all of its opponents until Georgia. So I don't think it's fair to say that the Georgia-Ohio State game was the real national championship game. But maybe it was. So that's an interesting other takeaway. But I think TCU is going to take a step back next year. I think their conference is going to be better. I expect Oklahoma to be better. Texas is gonna have Arch Manning, so they're obviously going to be better. Kansas State's really good. Oklahoma State with Mike Gundy's always really good. You think Baylor's going to be better next year. So I really think that TCU has a chance to take a big step back next season, similar to LSU the year after they won their title, except TCU lost. So it's going to be interesting, and TCU should be very proud of its season. And, of course, Georgia had the very best season from start to finish. Okay, now we'll move on to college basketball. We'll go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to today's slate. Alcorn State beats Alabama State 92-76. Morgan State beats South Carolina State 90-85. Colgate beats Army 77-75. Robert Morris beats IUPUI 77-70. NC Central beats Coppin State 64-59. Chicago State beats East West 90-70. Maryland Eastern beats Howard 82-73. Norfolk State beats Delaware State 78-65. New Mexico beats Oral Roberts 82-75. Jackson State beats Alabama A&M 72-64. Miss Valley State beats Texas Southern 71-67. Grambling beats Florida A&M 62-57. Southern beats Bethune-Cookman 102-75. And Arkansas Pine Bluff beats Prairie View 63-55. All right, tonight's game, 6:30 on Fox Sports 1. You have Butler and St. John's from Karasenko Arena. My projection is St. John's by 4.5, total 143 and 13/20. I wouldn't be shocked if Butler's actually favored in this game. So I think St. John's is so fraudulent. And St. John's is actually a 3.5-point favorite. Total 147.5. So people are going to look at this as a Vegas nose line. And they're right. I like the under. 7 o'clock ESPN, Oklahoma State at number 11, Kansas State. My projection is Kansas State by 7.25, total 138 and 7/10, and it is 5.5 and 138.5. Slight lean to Kansas State. Michigan State at number 18, Wisconsin on ESPN. My line is Michigan State by 1/4, total 133 and 1/10. And it's 1.5 and 126.5 in favor of Michigan State. I like the over. Hartford and St. Fran, Brooklyn. My line is St. Fran, Brooklyn by 5.5, total 130 and 2/5. And we got 8.5 and 127.5. I'm going to take Hartford getting the points. Belmont and Valparaiso. My line's Belmont by 9, total 143 and 2/5. And it's 5.5 and 142.5. I'm going to lay it with Belmont. Georgia Tech and Notre Dame on the ACC Network. Mine's Notre Dame by 8, total 138 and 17/20. And we got 5.5 and 136.5. I'm going to lay the 5.5 at Notre Dame. South Carolina, Kentucky on ESPN2. My line's Kentucky by 16 the quarters on 139 and 4/5, and it's 19.5 and 131.5. Over. Talk about a must-win game for Kentucky. Florida LSU on the SEC Network. My line is LSU by 5.5, total 138 and 13/20. And we got Florida by 1.5, total 138.5. That's so disrespectful to LSU. Give me LSU plus the points and plus 102 outright. Whew. Unless there's a major injury on LSU that we're unaware of. CBS Sports Network, VCU, Loyola, Chicago. My line's VCU by 6, total 137 and 19/20. And it is 4.5 and 136.5. Slightly into VCU. Dayton, Florida. My line is Dayton by 6, total 133 and a quarter, and it is 7.5 and 129.5. Over. Toledo and Kent State. My line is Kent by 5, total 149 and 11/20, and we got 3.5 and 152.5. Under. Akron and Bowling Green. My line is Akron by 3, total 149.10. And we got 3.5 and 140.5. Slight Bowling Green. Eastern Michigan and Western Michigan. My line's Western by 1, total 147 and 7/20, and we got 2.5 and 144.5. Over. Buffalo and Miami of Ohio. My line is Buffalo by 5, total 152 and a 20th, and we got 3.5 and 154.5. Under. Ball State and Ohio. My line is Ball State by 3, total 140 and a quarter, and we got Ohio by 1.5, total 144.5. Woo! Give me Ball State plus 1.5 and plus 105. 8 o'clock, Texas Tech at number 14, Iowa State. My line's Iowa State by 8.5, total 135 and 11/20, and we got 5.5 and 128.5. Over. Temple, Tulsa. My line is Temple by 8.25, total 141 and 3/20, and we got 3.5 and 142.5. I'm going to lay the points with Temple. Drake, UIC. My line is Drake by 12, total 134 and 3/4, and it's 10.5 and 138.5. Under. Murray State in Northern Iowa. My line's Northern by 6, to 136.5, and it is 3.5 and 137.5. I'm going to lay the points. Central Michigan and Northern Illinois. My line's Central by 1, total 138 and 7/20, and it's 1.5 and 134.5. Over. 8:30 on Fox Sports 1. Seton Hall, Georgetown. My line is Seton Hall by 6 3/4, so 142 and 2/5. And we got here 8.5 and 142.5. Slight lean to Georgetown. 9 o'clock, ESPN2, Oklahoma at number 2, Kansas. My line's Kansas by 13, total 136 1/4. And it's 10.5 and 132.5. I'm going to go with the over. Vandy at number 5, Tennessee. On the SEC Network, my line is Tennessee by 18.5, total 133 and 4/5. And 17.5 and 132.5. Slight over. Probably my favorite game of the night. 9 o'clock, ESPN, North Carolina, number 13, Virginia. Mine's Virginia by 3 1/4, total 142 and 13/20. And it's 4.5 and 134.5. Over. Number 21, Auburn at Ole Miss on ESPN. My line's Auburn by 6 1/4, total 133 and 3/5, and it's 2.5 and 132.5. Leading the points at Auburn. CBS Sports Network, Villanova, the poll. Milan's Villanova by 5 3/4 to 143 3/5, and it's 6.5 and 142.5. That's a tough one. Slight over. Big Ten Network, Illinois, Nebraska. My line's Illinois by 7.5 to 138, and it is 3.5 and 139.5. I'm going to lay the points with Illinois. Air Force and Colorado State. My line's Colorado State by 12.25 to 137 and 9/20, and it is 8.5 and 133.5. Over. Fresno State and San Jose State at 10 o'clock. Mine San Jose State by 4, total 128, and it's 2.5 and 122.5. Over. Wyoming and Utah State, 10:30 Fox Sports 1. My line's Utah State by 6, total 144 and 17/20, and it's 9.5 and 140.5. Over. And last but not least, 11 o'clock CBS Sports Network, Nevada at number 23, San Diego State. So welcome back to the rankings, San Diego State. My line is San Diego State by 11 3/4, so 138 and 3/20, and it's 9.5 and 137.5. I'm going to lay the points with San Diego State. All right, now move on to the NBA. We'll go over the results from yesterday, and we will look ahead to tonight's slate. Pelicans beat the Wizards 132-112. Celtics beat the Bulls 107-99. Bucks beat the Knicks 111-107. Grizz beats the Spurs 121-113. Nuggets beat the Lakers 122-109. And the Kings beat the Magic 136-111. All right. Tonight's game, 7 o'clock, Pistons Sixers. My Sixers by 16, total of 226 and 7/20. And I forgot about an absence on Detroit. So it's 19 and 226 and 7/20. And we got 11 and 227.5. I'm going to lay to 11 with Philly. TNT 7:30 Thunder Heat. Good for the Thunder getting a game on TNT. This was probably Pistons Sixers, but they removed it because the Pistons are terrible. And they probably want to see SGA on TV. My line is Heat by 8 3/4, total 225 and 9/20, and it's 4.5 and 224.5. I'm going to lay to 4.5 with the Heat. Hornets Raptors. My line's Raptors by a whopping 16, total 226 and a fifth, and it's 8 and 230.5. I'm going to lay to 8 with the Raptors. Cavaliers Jazz at 9. My line is Jazz by 13 and 3/4, so 226 and 3/10. This is the return of Donovan Mitchell. So it's going to be very interesting to see the reception he gets. I think he's going to be booed because he requested a trade. And here we are, and I'm disappointed that this game isn't on TV. This should be a TV game over Thunder Heat. No offense to SGA. No offense to Miami. But the Utah Jazz are better than expected this year, and Donovan Mitchell is back. So, why not? So, my projection... hang on a second here. My projection here is Cleveland by 7 3/4, total 226 and 3/10. And we got 3 and 227. I hate the pick, but I'm going to lay the 3 at the Cavs. I'm scared shitless of this pick because, that crowd is going to be raucous tonight. 10 o'clock, TNT, Suns Warriors. Mountains Warriors by 15, total 229. The return of Stephen Curry. And it's 11.5 and 229.5. I love Golden State. Everybody's heard on Phoenix. Magic Trailblazers. My line is the Blazers by 4 3/4, so 224 and 11/20, and it is 7.5 and 230. I'm going to take the under, my first under given out on the NBA segment. And then 10:30 Mavs Clippers. My line's Clippers by 3 1/4, so 221 and 7/20. And we got 1.5 and 221.5. Slight Clippers is the pick here. All right, now I'll move on to the NHL. We will go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's window. Flyers over the Sabres 4-0. Kraken over the Senators 4-0. Preds over the Senators 3-0. And the Kings over the Oilers 6-3. So best bet still undefeated on the year. Big night tonight. 7 o'clock you have the Kraken and the Sabres from Buffalo. Sneaky good game. I'm interested to see the line here. Buffalo's -111, Kraken -1, over under 6.5, overs -120, unders -102. Kraken plus 1.5 is -280, Sabres -1.5 is plus 210. I'm gonna lay the points, lay the money line with the Sabres. Devils Hurricanes. Canes -150, Devils plus 125, over under 6, -110 each way. Devils plus 1.5 is minus 205. Canes -1.5 is plus 164. I like the over. Jets Red Wings. Jets -137, Red Wings plus 114, over under 6, overs -114, unders -106. Jets -1.5 is plus 168, Red Wings plus 1.5 is -210. I like the over. Wild Rangers. Rangers -140, Wild plus 116, over under 6, overs -105, unders -115. Wild plus 1.5 is -215, Rangers -1.5 is plus 172. I kind of like the under in this game. I think that it's an under game. Canucks Penguins. Pens -200, Canucks plus 164, over under 6.5, overs -120, unders plus 104. Canucks plus 1.5 is -152, Pens -1.5 is plus 124. Kind of think Pittsburgh can win by multiple goals. I don't like how the Canucks have looked, but the Canucks are a little spunky at times. This is a hard one. I'm going to go first period result, Pittsburgh Penguins plus 128. Blue Jackets Lightning. Lightning -410, Jackets plus 315, over under 6.5, overs even money, unders -122. Jackets plus 2.5 is -148, Lightning -2.5 is plus 120. I'm going to go with the over. Even money. 7:30, Stars Islanders. Stars -118, Isles -102, over under 5.5, overs -118, unders -104. Stars -1.5 is plus 210, Isles plus 1.5 is -265. I'm going to lay the money line on the road with the Stars at -118. 8 o'clock, Flames Blues. Flames -176, Blues plus 146, over under 6. Overs -115, unders -106. Flames -1.5 is plus 152, Blues plus 1.5 is -188. I'm going to go with the Blues as a home dog, plus 146. I think the Flames are overvalued because they're playing really well and turn their season around. 9 o'clock, you have the Sharks and the Coyotes. The Sharks are -137. The Coyotes are plus 114, over under 6.5. Overs -102, and there's -120. Sharks -1.5 is plus 172. Coyotes plus 1.5 is -215. Over. And last but not least, 9:30, Panthers Avs. Battle of disappointing teams. Avs are -134. Panthers plus 112, over under 6.5. Overs -102, unders -120. Panthers plus 1.5 is -220. Avs -1.5 is plus 176. I like the over. All right, now we're going to go over soccer results of note from yesterday. And I don't know if there's a lot of notable soccer today. We'll see. Because there's a lot of leagues that are not playing until Thursday and stuff. Spanish La Liga result from yesterday. Athletic and Osasuna 0-0 draw. The Carabao Cup begins today, 3 o'clock. You have Manchester United and Charlton. This is going to be interesting. I'm trying to find here we go, the English Football League Cup. Man United is minus 850, Charlton's 14-1 draw 650. I'm going to go over 3.5 goals at minus 110. Newcastle and Leicester. Newcastle's minus 240, Leicester 550, draw 320. I'm going to go with under 2.5 goals at minus 108. Copa de la Reina. Round of 16. 12:45 you have Granada, and Alaves. I'm trying to find the lines here. It's the Copa del Reina. Yeah, it's very very odd that I can't find the odds here. So, and then at 12:45 also we have Villarreal and Sevilla, and then 2:45 we have Osasuna and Barcelona. And then the Spanish Supercopa we have tomorrow between Real Madrid and Valencia. We'll do that on tomorrow's podcast. So Mexican Liga results on Pachuca over Puebla 5-1. We did Spanish La Liga already. Italian Serie A, Verona over Cremonese 2-0, and Atalanta over Bologna 2-1. And then the English FA Cup, Arsenal over Oxford United 3-0. A week from today is when the third round of that will continue. So that's really it for the soccer today. Now we'll move on to the NFL Power Rankings. Again, the theme is the resumes. So best win and worst loss based on resume this season with the opponents. Number 32 is the Houston Texans. Their best win was at the Jaguars. Worst loss at the Bears. But really, their worst quote-unquote loss was the tie against the Colts in Week 1. If they lost that game, they would have had the number 1 pick. So, from a resume standpoint, their worst loss was at the Bears because that is the team that was the worst team that they lost to. Number 31, the Chicago Bears, their best win. Home 49ers. Week 1, worst loss at the Falcons. Number 30, the Indianapolis Colts, best win. Home against the Chiefs. That was like week 3. Worst loss this past weekend, home Texans. Just because they gave up a 4th and 20. Although you can make a case at New England was their worst loss. But from a resume standpoint, home Texans. Number 29, the Arizona Cardinals. Their best win was at the Raiders in week 2. Worst loss, home against the Rams in week 3. But at the time, we probably didn't know that the Rams were going to be that bad. But from a resume standpoint, that's their worst loss. 28, the Denver Broncos. Their best win was home against the Niners in week 3 on the Sunday night game, even though that was a terrible game from the standpoint of how it was played. And their worst loss, home against the Colts on the Thursday night. Number 27, the Los Angeles Rams. Their best win, home Raiders, Thursday night game. And then worst loss, home against the Cardinals. So their worst losses are against each other, the Cardinals and the Rams. Number 26, the Atlanta Falcons. Their best win was at the Seahawks in week 3. Worst loss at the Rams. Number 25, the Cleveland Browns. Their best win, home against the Bengals on Monday Night Football. Worst loss, home against the Patriots. 24, the Carolina Panthers. Their best win was at the Seahawks. Their worst loss was home against the Cardinals. Number 23, the New Orleans Saints. Their best win was at the Eagles, even though the Eagles didn't have Jalen Hurts or Lane Johnson. And their worst loss at the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. Number 22, the Tennessee Titans. Their best win at the Packers Thursday Night Football. Worst loss, home against the Texans. Yes, I know it was Malik Willis, but they still lost to that terrible Texans team. Number 21, the New York Jets. Their best win was home against the Bills. Worst loss at New England. Number 20, the Las Vegas Raiders. Their best win, home against the Chargers. Their worst loss, home against the Colts. It was debatable between the Colts and the Cardinals, but the Colts are lower in my power rankings than the Cards. And that was with Jeff Saturday, too. Number 19, the Washington Commanders. Their best win at the Eagles on Monday Night Football. Their worst loss, home against the Browns in Week 17. Number 18, the New England Patriots. Their best win, home against the Lions. Worst loss, home against the Bears on Monday Night Football. Packers at 17. Their best win was home against the Vikings. Worst loss, home against the Jets. They lost to Zach Wilson. Number 16, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their best win at the Cowboys week 1 from a resume standpoint. And their worst loss at the Panthers. Number 15, the Seattle Seahawks. Their best win at the Chargers. Worst loss, home against the Panthers. Number 14, the Detroit Lions. Their best win, home against the Vikings. Worst loss at New England. Number 13, the Miami Dolphins. Their best win, home against the Bills. Worst loss, home against the Packers on Christmas. Number 12, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the highest non-playoff team in my post-Week 18 power rankings because I feel they should have been in over the Dolphins. But karma did not rear his ugly head for Miami. So Steelers' best win Week 1 at the Bengals. Just how good that Minkah Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt were in that game, but that was their best win from a resume standpoint. Worst loss, home against the Jets. They lost to Zach Wilson. Number 11, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their best win, home against the Cowboys. Worst loss, home against the Texans. If you lose to the Texans, that automatically is your worst loss. Number 11, the Baltimore Ravens. Their best win, home against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. Worst loss at the Browns on a Saturday. Number 9, the New York Football Giants. Is this the highest they've been in the power rankings all year? Maybe. But this is the highest they've been since when they were like 6-1. Their best win, home against the Ravens. Worst loss, home against the Lions. Number 8, the Dallas Cowboys. Their best win at the Minnesota Vikings. Their worst loss, home against the Bucs. I know you could argue home Eagles for Cowboys' best win, but the Eagles are missing Jalen Hurts and Lane Johnson for that game. Number 7, the Minnesota Vikings. Their best win at the Bills. Worst loss at the Lions. Number 6, the Los Angeles Chargers. Their best win, home against the Dolphins. Worst loss at the Raiders. Number 5, the Philadelphia Eagles. Best win, home against the Vikings. Worst loss. I'm blanking. Oh, home against the Commanders on Monday Night Football. And the reason why I didn't say the Saints game was because, again, no Hurts or Lane Johnson. Although I did give the Saints at the Eagles as their best win. They really didn't have a win that's better than that, even without those two players. Number 4, the Cincinnati Bengals. Their best win, home against the Chiefs. Worst loss at the Browns Monday Night Football. Number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. Their best win, home against the Chargers. Worst loss at the Bears. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills. Their best win at the Chiefs. Worst loss at the Jets, because they lost to Zach Wilson. And number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. Their best win was at the 49ers. Worst loss at the Colts. So that's how the resume game would work. But like from a performance standpoint, the Cowboys' best win would still be at the Vikings. The Giants' best win from a performance standpoint would be home against the Colts. The Rams' best win would be home against the Broncos from that regard. The Commanders' best win from a performance standpoint, you could argue, was last weekend against the Cowboys. The Eagles' best win from a performance standpoint was at the Giants. The Chiefs' best win from a performance standpoint was also at the 49ers. The Bills' best win from a performance standpoint was home against the Steelers. That actually turned out to be a really good win for the Bills from a resume standpoint, too. But they had a better resume win than that. And meanwhile, at the Rams on opening night doesn't look like a dominant, great win as it would have. It was a better win 3 months ago than it was now from a resume standpoint. So this is a fun exercise that I did. And you can debate with some of these, like, best win, worst losses from resumes. But I didn't base it on performance. But if it was based on performance, I gave out a couple examples. Like Giants' worst loss from a performance standpoint was home against the Eagles. Vikings' worst loss from a performance standpoint, home against the Cowboys. Broncos' worst loss at the Rams. Rams' worst loss, home against the Bills on opening night. Bucks' worst loss from a performance standpoint at the 49ers. Dolphins' worst loss from a performance standpoint probably at the 49ers too. Steelers' worst loss from a performance standpoint at the Bills. So, fun exercise, obviously, and we're going to do like a hot seat update maybe tomorrow. All right, now I'll move on to news and notes for today. So we will start with college football. We talked about Jalen Carter going to the draft. And then Kirby Smart says he sees Stetson Bennett in the NFL. People have slept on Stetson Bennett for too long, he says. And then poor TCU and their fans, obviously, some of them left their viewing party early, which stinks. We'll stick with football. The Broncos hired Jim Harbaugh. It was a virtual interview. The Carolina Panthers are interviewing Shane Steichen for its position. And then for the Colts, Lions OC Ben Johnson, Rams DC Raheem Morris. Todd Downing got fired from the Titans. You knew the Titans were going to make a change on their staff. The Browns are eyeing Brian Flores for its defensive coordinator. So that's interesting. The Cardinals fire Cliff Kingsbury after a 4-13 season. Kyler Murray to have input on the team's next head coach. The Panthers are out on Jim Harbaugh. Brandon Cooks wants a trade. That's not surprising. Your window where your gifts are at its peak only lasts for so long, he says. Tua Tagovailoa not cleared for activity, still in concussion protocol. Team is hoping for more clarity on Wednesday. They need him back if they have any chance to be competitive against the Bills. Raheem Mostert breaks his thumb. Status for the game against the Bills in doubt. So Mike Williams to practice this week after MRI shows no fractures. That's good news. Brian Daboll says experience is overrated. And he isn't worried that many of their players have not played in the postseason. But the best news of yesterday in all of sports is that Damar Hamlin was transferred to Buffalo Hospital. He is doing well. And he says, a lot of love on my heart to continue recovery. The College Football Hall of Fame class has been announced. There's some names in this class that are in this class. Tim Tebow, Reggie Bush, Mark Richt, Eric Berry, Michael Bishop, Monte Carter, Dwight Freeney, Robert Gallery, LaMichael James, Derek Johnson, Paul Johnson, Bill Kohler, Roy Kramer, Luke Kuechly, Jeremy Maclin, Terrence Mathis, Bryant McKinney, Corey Moore, Michael Stonebreaker, Tim Tebow, we talked about Troy Vincent, Brian Westbrook, and D'Angelo Williams. So that is a really, really fun class for sure. Stephen Curry probable tonight against the Suns. Missed 11 games due to the shoulder injury. The Suns are eyeing Jalen McDaniels in a deal involving Jay Crowder. So that's interesting. LeBron James did not play against the Nuggets last night. Kevin Durant has an MCL sprain and will be reevaluated in 2 weeks after being diagnosed with the sprained MCL in the right knee. And there's optimism that it won't cost him more than a month. Even if it isn't a month, this is terrible for Brooklyn. They were riding high, establishing themselves as a self-title contender. But Durant going to be out. I don't see Brooklyn staying in second in the East. They're going to drop to out of home court advantage. They may drop to 5th. Luke Jackson signs with the San Francisco Giants. Here's $11.5 million after having Tommy John surgery last season. So the San Francisco Giants are loading up their bullpen. I just don't think they've had the best offseason, though, obviously. And speaking of the Giants, one of the guys that almost signed was Carlos Correa. As the Twins look like they're the favorites now, their chances have escalated with the Mets talks in limbo. The Angels signing Brett Phillips, 1-year deal. Blue Jays signed Brandon Belt, 1-year deal, and the Marlins signed Johnny Cueto to a 1-year deal. So a lot of 1-year deals being handed out to veterans right now. Soccer news, Gareth Bale retires. 5-time Champions League winner. He played for Tottenham, Madrid, and obviously LAFC, helping LAFC win the MLS Cup this past season. And Chelsea agrees to a Joao Felix deal on a loan for initial $11.8 million fee. So that's an interesting story for Chelsea. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. There's an NBA pick that stood out to me. And as much as I love the Warriors, I just don't want to lay double digits with them. But there's another one that jumped out to me. I bet against this team last week because I feel they're overvalued. I think they're overvalued again here. And the team that I'm going to lay a unit on is the Miami Heat. So I'm going to lay 4.5 points with the Miami Heat at home against the Thunder for my best bet of the day. All right, that's it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything, looking ahead to everything tomorrow. We have the Sony Open to pick, news and notes, and best bet too. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.